Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Late Debate. I'm Ebar, and today we've got the crew with us. We're being joined. We're actually the debut of the one and only my pal and your pal, Scooty.
Yeah.
How you doing, buddy?
Oh, I'm here. I'm living.
Just getting by.
Yep.
Just getting by.
The heat's kind of a killer in here in Canada, which is kind of bad, but
Oh, come on. It's nothing. That's not heat.
Not really. Not compared to you guys.
And we also have with us, making his triumphant return to the Late Debate after many millennia and eons have gone by, Mr. Entertainment Noah Donish.
I think I'm making my return to life, as a matter of fact. I've been so miserable, I've just hated everything, and I just want to come back now and take it out on you guys. And speaking of heat, how much heat do you think this show is going to get? Do you think that I'm going to bring the heat? Who's going to bring the heat?
I feel like if anybody's bringing heat, it probably will be you.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got to agree with
Fair
that.
enough. And how come, I just realized something. How come I've never referred to you as Scooty? I've always just called you Ryan.
I have no idea. Everybody calls me Scooty.
Everyone calls you Scooty. Okay, well, I feel like I'm late to the party once again.
Very late.
But I got to tell you, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to have this late debate. I would think I'd be on this show more often because I'm always late to the party. So, late debate. I took a really, really satisfying dump before coming on the air. So I'm ready to rock and roll.
For how long you said it took, it better have been satisfying.
Right?
It happens. I like to make sure I'm clean as a whistle.
Well, if you're taking between 5 to 10 minutes to wipe your ass, I feel like
I wipe my ass until I am so clean and neat. I wipe my ass until it is raw and bloody.
Is that clean and neat?
Hey, as long as there's no shit on my ass, that's all I care about.
Hey, fair enough, man. Fair enough. I can't argue with you there.
By the way, for those of you watching, I want you guys to break a tie here, everyone at home. What would you guys think if we did a show and called it the shit show, where we're all literally just streaming from our toilets? Like, you won't see our balls or anything like that, but just streaming while we're taking a shit. Call it the shit show.
But how long? First of all, if you sit on the toilet too long, your legs go numb. So how long is this show going to be? It also doesn't take.
Well, that's why you get a poop stool.
A squatty potty?
A squatty potty, yes. Get a squatty potty. It's true.
Oh, my.
Actually, we can split the tie right now. Ryan, what do you think? Shit show?
I'll pass you guys.
All right.
Okay.
Well, let me tell you something. I am ready to drill into this topic today. So what is the topic for the late debate?
All right. Well, today, and the title of the video might be a little misleading because it's kind of a long-winded topic name. But basically, we're going to go back and say if during like the Monday Night Wars and everything, if WWF had been the one to close, but ECW didn't close and WCW was still around, which one of those would have mostly prospered during that time period? And let's say that let's just throw out the window like Turner money or anything like that. I think we should set some rules. Like, let's put them on even ground. Say WCW has a TV deal, ECW has a TV deal, maybe 1 to 2 shows a week, whatever. But if it was even ground from the get-go, WWF shuts down, all those superstars got to go somewhere. Who's going to come out the winner between ECW and WCW? What do you think? Okay.
All right.
Well, Ryan's had a little more time to think about it than Noah. So if you want to give us your opinions on it first.
Well, like I was mentioning before the show, when you really look at the cards between, or the rosters between all three shows, 90% of both WCW and ECW ended up in WWF at one point in time. But to me, like, growing up, I started watching probably mid-90s, so I was a little bit late to, getting into what WCW and ECW were at the time. Now, that didn't stop me from going back and watching them on the ever so lovely WWE network.
$9.99.
Actually,
or in Canada. My bad.
yeah, it's $11.99 here in Canada, but we'll not go there. But no, like if I had a choice to go back and watch one or the other, I would prefer ECW over WCW.
And why do you think that is?
I find, especially in the early 90s, I find there was more action on that show. Like, okay, sure, you had great guys in WCW at the time, but I didn't find the matches were all that great later on in the formation of WCW. The longer they were around, the less and less it seemed like they were putting on good shows.
That's true. I mean, obviously, everyone knows they struck gold with the NWO, and that was great, but they were so focused on that they really weren't thinking about anything else besides the NWO, and that shit can only last for so long, and they milked it for all it was worth, absolutely.
Right.
But I'd probably agree with you. I missed a lot of early ECW. Like, I didn't watch ECW TV and stuff like that. I remember I got an ECW pay-per-view at some point. Damn, I wish I could remember which one it was, but I just remember it was only $19.99, and like WCW and WWF pay-per-views at the time were always $29.99. So I was just like, well, at least this one's a little bit cheaper. But all right, no, what do you think, man?
You know, out of the two, I was an ECW guy. I started watching ECW when it was, and embarrassingly enough, I didn't have cable as a kid. So I caught ECW on a really obscure TV station that no longer exists in Sacramento, just like a really weird, like America One network or something like that. And I got ECW Hardcore TV on that. And it was just the coolest fucking thing. But going back and reliving now the Monday Night Wars, the era of like the mid 90s, WCW, ECW, and the WWF, if you look at WCW and what they did, they really, other than turning Hulk Hogan heel, what was really innovative about WCW's product? It really wasn't. It was a collection of over-the-hill guys holding down young talent, whereas ECW, the older guys went in there with the purposes of lifting up the young guys. Look at Terry Funk. Terry Funk went in there, lifted up the young talent. And whether or not you like that style of wrestling, I mean, I think it's comparing apples to celery. It's really, they're two very, very different styles. WCW always kind of gravitated towards the old school Southern style of wrestling. ECW, if you're a wrestling purist, you may or may not like it. Now, in terms of which company I feel would have been successful in the long run, I think you have to go with the money. You have to go with WCW on this one. Why? Because simply put, backed by a billionaire, $1 billion corporation, AOL Time Warner. When we look at ECW and we look at Paul Heyman, let's be real. The reason why ECW folded was because they got kicked off their network by Vince McMahon. It's very similar thing happened to WCW. Without TV rights, your company is worthless. That being said, even if they stayed on TV, they would have had to find a financial backer. And the problem is Paul Heyman was such a bad businessman he was even less trustworthy as a business partner than Dixie Carter was. And that says something right there. And I'm not trying to take away from Paul Heyman's accomplishments in the business as a booker and as a talent, second to none. He's amazing, but I don't think there's a soul on this planet that would disagree with me in saying Paul Heyman had no business running a professional wrestling promotion from the business side of it. And so I think unless they had some angel investor, I honestly think that the sole winner in all this was logically going to be WCW.
Well, oops, because you absolutely went against my rules, which was that they both had a TV deal and everything.
They
was
did have a
even.
TV. I said they both had a TV deal.
No, what I'm saying is WWF dies, and they're both on the level. I was saying, what if ECW and WCW were both on the exact even playing field? Like no one had more money.
You can't put them on an even playing field though, because their booker was so awful at running a business. I don't understand how you can put them on an even playing field like that.
Yeah, but I'm saying ignore that. Ignore that.
So you just want to look at which one is the best promotion.
Here's more what I was thinking. Like, what if, okay, so WWF shuts down, right?
Yeah.
All of those wrestlers have to go somewhere. And if it's even playing field and just fantasy booking here, and ECW and WCW both had the same amount of money, I feel like a lot of talent would go to ECW because they got fucked over so bad by WCW in the first place that they went to WWF. You know, like I don't feel like Chris Jericho's going back to WCW. Stone Cold certainly isn't. Big Show at the time. Come on, man. Booker T.
So let me ask you this though. Does ECW remain the same style of product as they did in the 90s?
That's for you to decide. This is where we're going with this.
Okay, so then I would have to agree with you because WCW 2000, 2001, you had to deal with Vince Russo. I don't think many people in the wrestling business liked Vince Russo, wanted to work with him. And that there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. So from that regard, yes, I would say a lot of those guys would go back to ECW, but my concern is ECW can't remain the same extreme championship wrestling that they were in the 90s. So maybe they have to scale it back a little bit and become more of a traditional wrestling promotion, because a lot of these guys are getting older now, or guys that were once in ECW, then went to WWF like Stone Cold Steve Austin. They're not going to go back to ECW and work that same style.
Right.
So you got to go in a different direction. So I would say ECW, for them to survive and be on that playing field, they have to diversify their product a lot more than they did, clean up their image a little bit. No more fans throwing chairs in the ring. No more lighting people on fire to the same degree as you always did. But yes, I was always an ECW guy. So on the same playing field, my heart goes to ECW on this one.
I feel him.
Did I break your rules this time?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, when you really think about it, Noah does have a point when he says that, the ECW would have been the one to go over because of the fact that, as we mentioned, a little while ago, what did WCW have as far as storylines? I mean, the best thing that they come up with was the NWO angle.
Yeah, that was it.
Everything seemed like
and I mean, now
everything. Yeah, it just seemed like it was always all over the place as far as WCW, and they might start with something and have some type of idea where you're like, oh, well, let's see where this goes. And then the next week, they just don't talk about it. You never hear about it again.
Right.
And then it's over. And you're like, okay, well, this is absolutely inconsistent. I mean, what's the point?
Oh, absolutely.
Right. But when you think about it, I mean, they had a WCW or ECW rather had, they had the Dudleys numerous times get in awesome angles. They had Dreamer versus Raven, which was by far the best feud I have ever seen in professional wrestling, let alone in ECW at the time. And then you had Shane Douglas, who revolutionized ECW to what it had been from that point on.
And Lord knows Shane Douglas wasn't going back to no WCW.
Yeah,
that's
exactly,
for sure.
Right? No,
oh,
and that's the point is, he made WCW what it was by pretty much saying, fuck you to the Eastern Championship Wrestling and changing the name over.
Speaking of that, okay, so that's obviously one of the most iconic moments, even though in the speech afterwards, Shane Douglas he flubs a line and says like obligatory or something like that. But anyway,
I remember that.
but which, not for just like popularity, because obviously more eyes were on WCW, but which moment do you think had more impact? When he threw down that Eastern Championship Wrestling belt and it transitioned into ECW, or on the WCW side of things, whenever Hogan blew everybody's mind?
So I have to like politely and respectfully correct you there. What made that so impactful was not the fact he threw down an Eastern Championship Wrestling belt. He didn't do that, and it would not have made as many headlines if he had done that. He threw down the NWA World Heavyweight Championship belt.
Okay, yes. No, it is right.
And that split the promotion from the NWA, and then they declared themselves Extreme Championship Wrestling. That's why it was such a controversial event, because you took the NWA World Heavyweight Championship, supposedly the most prestigious belt in the history of the wrestling business,
right?
And he disrespected it like that. It was for that time period when not every single fan on the planet was smartened up to the business. That was like one of those moments. And in a way, I mean, I guarantee you that was what Eric Bischoff looked at as an example before he had Medusa throw the WWF Women's title in the trash.
Oh, yeah. I mean, without a doubt, WCW and WWF both stole many ideas and concepts from ECW. I don't feel like there would have been an attitude era, or at least not in the same way that it was in WWF if it hadn't been for ECW, certainly.
They brought the ECW guys in there in 96, 97 to teach them how to have attitude.
They did, and Jerry Lawler, my God, he hated it.
Oh, he did. And that, all those, go back, if you haven't seen those promos with Lawler, go back and watch those. He is shooting. Every single second is a fucking shoot. He made no bones about it. At least guys like Jim Cornette, who is cut from the same cloth as Lawler, exact same territory, same era and whatnot. Jim Cornette can at least recognize that there's positive stuff that came out of ECW. A lot of bullshit came out of ECW, but there were a lot of guys that could not get over anywhere else in the country that got over in ECW, like New Jack, great example. Someone that could not get over any. Well, I'm not saying he's great, but I'm saying he got over in ECW. What other promotion could he get over? I mean, he did the Gangstas thing in Smoky Mountain. It was ECW, but look, go back and watch those promos. Lawler fucking could not find one redeeming quality of ECW. He hated it, and all those promos are shoots. It's great.
It is entertainment at its finest. All right. Well, I wish I had an old roster pulled up, because it'd be interesting to think, or to wait. Ryan, do you have a roster from the old days?
I've got a top 50 of that my good buddy Nasty. For those of you guys that watch my streams and stuff, you'll hear a song by him on my shows every week. Not plugging that either. But I do have a list here, and I can send it to you on Facebook, Eric, right quick.
Sure. Well, I just want to go through some names and think about like where they would have ended up.
Well, okay, I'll just read a few here. I'll do the top 10, I guess.
Okay.
That he put. So Sid Vicious.
I think at that point he was probably more in it for the payday. So, well, now I'm breaking my own rules because I'm thinking about WCW having more money. Still, I think he probably would have stayed in WCW. What about him?
Yeah.
I'm gonna third that, because Sid, around that time period, he was still. I mean, didn't he like? What year was the ankle break?
I wanted to say 99, but I'm not 100%.
All right, so you got that.
Maybe 2000.
I mean, that leg, no amount of operations made that leg ever the same again. So he's looking to work a very easy wrestling style. So I'm sending him to WCW.
By the way, and I know most people that are going to be watching this have probably seen it, but if you haven't seen that clip, Go and watch it. Go watch Sid break his ankle. It is.
Ooh, you gotta have a strong stomach.
It is so gruesome. And then like Tony Schiavone's like, oh, I think he might have a problem with his leg. Like, yeah, no shit. It's hanging off sideways, bro. I think he probably has a problem.
Yeah, if you don't have a strong stomach, don't watch it. It was a compound fracture.
It's brutal. It is so brutal.
It was.
Like I thought he retired for a number of years after that.
It. And then
So then he doesn't really count as some because he wouldn't have gone anywhere.
No, but WWF at the time was stupid and brought him back for like 1 or 2 matches after that. After he had his prosthetic.
They didn't amputate his leg.
They gave him a fake leg, dude.
They cut his leg off?
Yes.
I had no idea.
If you watch, I think it was Raw 1000, you can tell that he has a fake leg.
I thought that they fixed his leg. I had no idea they amputated it, that the leg break was that bad.
Yep.
I am late to the party. Holy fucking shit.
You and me both, and I don't know enough about it to know.
Well, I only know because of the guy that sent me the list here. We were talking about it one day.
The fuck?
Number 9, he has as Bobby Eaton.
He would have just went home, bro.
Beautiful Bobby Eaton. Wouldn't he have been like in his 50s by then?
I mean, I think he was still in WCW. Like he might be on like WCW Saturday Night type shit, but
yeah,
I think he was past his prime.
Wasn't he a member of like the original fucking Midnight Express?
Yes, I do believe so.
Yeah, no, he's going home. He's not going anywhere.
All right.
Not enough room.
Well, the next one, Barry Windham, would be the same situation.
Going home.
Chris Benoit. And I know this is going to put a lot of talk on the comment section.
Hopefully. Oh, man. I got to say ECW, man, because, I mean, he left WCW, pretty much walked out as the world champion. I mean, even if you wanted to go back, he would have to go back sniveling and crawling like a little bitch. So definitely ECW. And he had some good matches in ECW, so.
He did.
He did, yeah. I totally agree with that. I mean, I love even WCW. He had amazing matches, but nothing compared to his ECW stuff. Nothing compared to it. So.
Well, that match with Brett, though.
Yeah, that was good.
To honor Owen or whatever.
Yeah. I know which one you mean. You were there that night, were you?
No. I was at Raw is Owen the night after he fell.
Okay, yeah. That's
like the saddest night in wrestling, basically. And that was my first ever live event.
Okay, right on.
So brutal.
Flying Brian Pillman.
Wait, he was already dead.
At that point? Yeah. Yeah, he was.
He died in like 97, didn't he?
Yeah. Okay. Vader. Because, I mean, even now not so much now that he has health problems, but
over the past, he died.
But from like the time where he had the health problems from the past like 5 years, he was still going.
Well, to be honest with you, man, he had good times in WCW and kind of got the shaft whenever he went to WWF. So that might be one that would actually want to go back to WCW. They probably wouldn't use him worth a shit, but he'd probably at least give him a shot.
He was the biggest star in WCW and the NWA at one point. I don't see him going to ECW ever. He was a WCW guy. Even more like when I think of Vader, I really don't even think about his time in the WWF. I think about his time. It's fucking Big Van Vader in WCW. That is what he's associated with. Just like when you think of Ric Flair in his prime, you associate him with WCW. Same with Sting. Those are guys that are perpetually branded as WCW guys.
Yeah.
And I guess we also have to take into the assumption that TNA did not begin because the other two were there. It would never have come to be had those companies stayed in business.
I mean, unless Jarrett decided to make a fourth, but I highly doubt that.
Nah, why would he? He'd probably still be with WCW getting his dick sucked.
Probably. Diamond Dallas Page.
WCW.
Yeah.
He's staying.
Yep. Definitely agree with that. And even today, he would still be one of the top players. I mean, with his DDP yoga and stuff that he's been doing,
He could probably still be a manager or something.
I think he could still put on 1 or 2 good matches. You know, not a full-time schedule. Like,
sure,
give him, you know, kind of like the Raw 1000.
Isn't he like 60 now?
He's up there. He was old even like whenever wrestling was on.
Yeah, because when he come in and did that whole angle with Taker, I mean, he was in his late 40s.
Well, I know when he started in the business, late when he was in his 30s. It was like kind of a Dave Bautista similar situation where he started late.
Yeah, and by the time he actually got popular to where he's like United States Championship, World Championship, he was probably mid 40s by then. So he's got to be, he might even be older than 60. I don't know. I'd have to look it up, and I'm not going to. But yeah, I mean, why would he leave WCW if it never shut down? Why would he leave WCW whenever he's been a multiple-time world champion? Yeah, I don't know. I don't think he'd leave.
Okay, and Stinger.
WCW all day.
Yeah,
he ain't going to ECW.
No, definitely not.
Now, I know I'm shooting a little bit here off topic, but if the fact that he did switch over to ECW, name one person you think that he could have actually feuded with that would have kind of elevated his time in that company.
That wasn't already someone he feuded with in WCW, so that's the tricky part. Like an ECW original.
Yeah,
my mind immediately shot to Rob Van Dam. I don't know what you guys think about it.
Well, Rob Van Dam is one of those guys that could wrestle like an actual really, really good technical match that was an ECW original that didn't have to go to the hardcore nonsense. When you think about guys like the Sandman, immediately he's going to the Singapore cane and using the weapons and all the nonsense. If we're talking about a wrestling classic, and even a Tommy Dreamer, it's gonna like gravitate. Even though Tommy Dreamer is a good worker, it would instantly go to the weapons. And so I'm thinking about Rob Van Dam also, and it's tough because a lot of those other ECW guys were people that were already in WCW, so I don't necessarily know that those count. So yeah, I mean, if you're talking about someone who's almost strictly an ECW guy, I'm going with fucking RV.
This is what, put our mindset in 2000, 2001. Sting still had a lot of mileage left in him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there could definitely be some of those high spots that Rob Van Dam was known for. Maybe not as crazy as if he was facing somebody like, Sabu or some shit.
I'll tell you, I mean, if you're talking about a former ECW, WCW, WWF guy that would go from WWF back to ECW, I'd like to see a Stone Cold Steve Austin versus.
That could have been awesome if Sting went and Steve Austin also decided to. That would be terrific because both of them, and basically in their prime, Stone Cold didn't have too long left, but that would be a very high.
Because I mean, Stone Cold wasn't going back to WCW. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, no fucking way. He still was holding way too much of a grudge during that time period.
But even like seeing Stone Cold as Stone Cold going back to ECW would have been amazing to see.
True.
Absolutely,
it would have been awesome. Regardless,
it would have been more of a, hey, I could actually take this Stone Cold, I'm a badass gimmick and push it to its full potential limit.
Do we see him and Sandman feuding with each other or aligning with each other?
Ooh. Good question.
Possibly like aligning, and like not a true alliance, like not a tag team, but just maybe having each other's backs until one of them doesn't. You know what I mean? And then there would be a feud, I think.
I'll tell you, there is one name we have not mentioned at all through all of this that was a fixture of all three promotions.
Okay.
Mick Foley.
That's true.
Yeah,
I mean, we have not mentioned his name.
Wow.
He was already like commissioner or whatever at that point, I think, but still had plenty of matches left in him. So, I mean, I feel like he'd definitely go back to ECW too, because WCW kind of fucked him over as well. So
yeah,
I mean, let's be honest. It wasn't. I mean, his TNA run when he worked all those fucking amazing matches proved he didn't retire in 2000 because his. I mean, yeah, I'm sure he was hurting, but he didn't retire from some career-ending injury. His wife was fucking sick and tired of his kids seeing daddy get the shit kicked out of him. So, I mean, that was ultimately the main reason why he took a step back until his kids got older and could understand that it was all pretend. So, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would see Foley going back to ECW.
That would have been awesome.
Yeah.
And he couldn't have been welcomed back with more open arms from that crowd, I guarantee it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because he took the style and brought it with him to WWF. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, he had already done it in WCW as well, but still, yeah.
Imagine a fucking match between Foley and fucking Terry Funk in ECW around like 2004-ish. That would have been interesting.
That would have been crazy.
Backbreaking, literally.
Literally.
Yeah, but Funk never knew when to quit anyway, so.
Yeah, well, that's it.
No.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he still even works some dates, though. Don't quote me on that. I think he does.
I'm pretty sure he still does, yeah.
That's fucking insane, because Beyond the Mat came out in 99 and the fucking doctor told him he had like no padding left in his knees or whatever. Like,
and mind you, hey,
no
Eric, that footage that you're talking about that came out in 99 was filmed in like 97, 98-ish.
Well, yeah, that makes sense. But Jesus Christ, dude. How the fuck? And he's like, and I remember because he's like, well, will I still be able to get around comfortably? And the doctor's like, you shouldn't be able to get around comfortably now. You know, and it's just like,
and he was watching him climb out of the bed in his tidy whities. He honestly looked like he was in his 70s in that fucking video when he was in his early 50s at the time. So he's got to be in his 70s now.
That's his working days. He's just
crazy.
Asking to die.
No, I will say the most disturbing part of Beyond the Mat was Terry Funk's buddy, who was jumping up and down on the fucking trampoline in nothing but his underwear with his fucking nuts bouncing up and down.
Yeah, because he's always got to be ready. You know, he hasn't been booked in years, but he's always wants to be in ring shape. So got to get out there with your 2-pound weights and jump on the trampoline
in your tidy whities.
Yeah, because you know, if you wore workout clothes, you wouldn't get as ripped. And boy was he. All right. Well, I think we can probably wrap it up. Any final thoughts about this topic?
I had one more thing.
Okay. Let's hear it, buddy.
It kind of goes off a little bit, but new roster that they have today in WWE, WWF, whatever you want to call it. Who could you see if they hadn't stayed a company? Who could you see from them today? Where would you have seen some of them? And I'll give a few examples, like Kevin Owens.
Definitely seems like more of an ECW guy. Just off the top of my head.
Noah?
I'll agree with that. Seems like more of an ECW guy.
Okay, fair enough. Just throwing off top of my head here, Neville, who just got released.
I could see him as a WCW cruiserweight.
Yeah, if they kept a strong cruiserweight division, I could definitely see that in him in WCW.
Fair enough. The bruiserweight, Pete Dunne. Throw you guys a tough one.
Honestly, I could see him in both. But if I had to pick one, I'd probably say WCW. With him being from the UK, it just kind of, for some reason in my brain, fits into WCW more. That probably doesn't make sense, but that's just how my mind is working at the moment.
No, I can kind of see it.
I'll agree with that.
All right, and I'll throw a couple divas in there as well. Sasha Banks.
WCW. I don't. Yeah. I don't know. I see her as a WCW girl.
Okay.
Well, the thing is, like, neither, because it was during that time period, so you didn't really see that many competitive wrestling matches between women in ECW or WCW during that time. Like, they had a lot of girls around.
Yeah, but most of them were either Nitro girls or
or just sluts that.
Or just sluts that were on TV.
Former strippers that Ric Flair banged and offered them a job.
Was that Gorgeous
Nitro
George?
Girls?
Oh, Nitro Girls. But I'll say ECW just to be a contrarian.
And one more, Becky Lynch.
Something about it feels like WCW to me. I can't put my finger on it.
I think it's that accent again. I think it's where she's from.
Why is that in my brain? Like I just want people with accents.
No, because
over there too.
When you think of WCW, you think pompous, like more straight and narrow wrestling.
Well, no, but to be fair, man, WCW really mixed it up. Like they didn't push a lot of their lower card talent, but they had a lot of international talent there, like all the time, man. I was watching some old Thunders the other day, and it's just like, never heard of this dude, but he's there, I guess.
When it and like Noah just said, when it come down to it, WCW had a lot of the guys from like New Japan, and they kind of pulled the card that TNA did at first when they first, did the formation, and they had a lot of overseas guys come over and fight. So that's probably why you have that embedded in your head so bad.
Let me ask you guys one. Braun Strowman.
EC dub. EC dub. EC dub.
See, that's a tough one. Because, I mean...
WCW at least might have had enough sense to make him champion by now.
Yeah. But seeing Braun Strowman versus Paul White in his prime would have been fantastic.
That's true.
You know who I would have liked to seen Braun Strowman go up against?
Who's that?
Fucking Bam Bam Bigelow.
Yes.
That would have been great.
That would have been. I agree with that. 100%.
Because Bam Bam can move around so well for being that size. Oh my God, that could have been a terrific match.
There's a lot of them now that can
do
that. I mean, look at guys like Lars Sullivan and even Kevin Owens. I mean, he's a little bit on the bigger side, but you'd swear he was a cruiserweight some days.
Yeah. And he's slimmer now than he used to be.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because Vince told me he was going to fucking fire him if he didn't fucking hit the gym.
Well, he quit on his own this past Monday, so.
Exactly.
All right. I'm glad you threw that in, Ryan. That was cool.
Yeah, not a problem.
All right. So, any final thoughts on this, guys?
I think we beat it to death.
We just beat the piss out of it.
We did.
WWF beat WCW.
Oh,
savage. Okay, sorry. All right. So, what do you got to plug, Ryan?
Well, I usually use just my Twitter mostly. So if you want to follow me on Twitter, 902RealDealX, and I use my Twitch a lot too as well to stream. I've been streaming Battlefield 1 lately, so go to twitch.tv/RealDealXstream. And
I'll leave that address in the description below. Noah, what do you got, Bob?
YouTube.com/NoahMania. Go check it out. Subscribe. I am back. I'm not going to promise any specific shows. Just stay tuned. I will promote it once it's in the can. So we did a show yesterday live. I will do another live show this week, and there may be some other stuff going up. So just stay tuned for that. Good stuff coming.
Good stuff coming from Noah Mania. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us today. Let us know down in the comments what you thought about what we were talking about, what you thought about what superstars would go where, or just let us know what you thought. Also, if you have any ideas for future late debates, because I plan on doing these a little bit more frequently than we have been here lately, leave those down in the comments as well, and we might pick one of yours, and if we do, then we'll give you credit and everything. So good stuff. Anyway, subscribe. And also, I do Jackbox live streams every week, so you guys should come and hang out and play because it's free.
They get really sexual.
They tend to get very sexual.
Yep.
But that's why people show up. All right.
Yes, sir.
Anyways, for Scooty.
Yes, sir.
For Mr. Entertainment. Noah
That's
Donner.
me. That's me.
Oopsie. All right. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.